Okay, hello everyone. My name is Sanket Verma, and today I'll be talking about how to use GitHub to manage technical documentation. Uh, I'm the community manager for this project, Zarr, and I have been in this position since last 1.5 years. And Zarr is basically a format for storing huge data sets, like massive data sets, and it's basically a specification. Specification is actually a technical documentation. There's like a technical word for specification, which is known as, a technical word for a technical document, which is specification. And based on this specification, we have softwares in these languages like Python, R, Julia, JavaScript, and all these languages. So a specification, which is actually the technical documentation of Zara, is essential part of the project. And that's what I take care of about other than other things. And this is my GitHub, Twitter handle on the right hand side of your screen. If you like this, you can follow me on that Twitter. So I'll be showing like how to set up the GitHub repositories for documentation using Read the Docs. Then I'll take a moment to show what is our project's community and its elements using some cool cartoon graphics. After this, I'll be showing how we use Git and GitHub to manage our specification. And if time allows, I'll briefly explain what the zip process is. So let's dive into the first portion of the presentation. So we'll be using Read the Docs to build our documentation. Read the Docs is actually a free and open source tool which currently hosts around 80,000 projects and over has 100,000 users. If you want, you can follow the steps as I go in and build documentation for yourself as well. So you're free to do that. So please go to this link, which basically contains the template and the necessary files to build the actual documentation. Um, I think you have the link for the slides as well, but you are also free to scan the QR code and go over here. Once you open this, you're going to see something like this, and then you can click on the use this template, which is on the top right-hand side of the screen, and then click on create a new repository. Then after this, you'll be prompted to some screen which will look something like this, and you can just name your repository anything. And I just use like CSCCE Tools Trials. And then on the bottom of the screen, you can click on create a new repository. After this, you would need to sign up for a Read the Docs account, and you can do this via GitHub. So if you just go to this link and there's like an option you can see which basically says sign up using GitHub, you can click on that, which will basically prompt to the screen. And you would need to like authorize this because this will basically allow Read the Docs to access the files in the repository to build the documentation. After this, you're gonna see a dashboard, which is gonna be looking something like this. And now here's like a small video of how to import a project in your Read the Docs account. So I'm gonna pause here for a second. And yeah, that's done. So this is how you import a project. And once you do this, your documentation will automatically start building. You don't have to do anything. And you can click on the build section on the top, and which basically shows that, I mean, it's going to take like, I think, 2 to 3 minutes to build a documentation, but after 2 to 3 minutes, you'll see that it's done. And once it's done, you can see it live. These are basically just commands which shows like what are the commands it went through to build a documentation, and you can see click on the view the docs and you can see it live. So I actually built like a test documentation for this presentation, and you can click on this link or scan this QR code, and there's like a small documentation which is living over here, and it looks something like this. So we have basically successfully built a live documentation for using GitHub account and Read the Docs for this presentation. And so this is what the basic steps for building a documentation looks like. And now I'm going to switch over to the part where how we use it and how we manage our documentation. So first I would like to talk about the Zarr community. And I've been taking care of the community since like past 1.5 years. And I think our community consists of these are open source software and the specification, the users and developers who basically use the software, and also the developers who contribute and maintain the project, the governance and the council of the project, And when you mix all of these, and hold on, you also add a surprise element, which is that Zarr is fairly easy to use, and it is like programming language agnostic. It can be used across different programming languages, and a series of cartoon graphics, and then you have the project. So as mentioned earlier, and you can see the specification is like a core part of our project. And now I would like to take a moment to talk about how we use Git and GitHub to manage our docs. So GitHub basically offers like a range of features. It has issues to raise concerns, features, requests, and track progress. You have pull request, which basically lets you submit changes to the documentation and code. Then you have project boards, which you can organize and workflow, create roadmaps, etc. And then you have GitHub discussions, which will basically lets you have polls, Q&As, general discussions in a threaded manner. So this is what our repository looks like, which hosts the documentation. And you can see I've highlighted multiple important sections over here. And there are like issues, PR, pull requests, discussions, projects. And this is the folder that you can see docs, which contains the actual documentation. And all the files are basically hosted over there. And in the previous slide, you have seen that there were like a bunch of commands when the documentation was built successfully. So these were coming out of this file, which is third on the number, which is read the docs at YAML. You don't need to go into this, but I'm just saying it out for the purpose. So let's go into the issues, like how we use issues. So this is what our issue tracker looks like. And these are mostly like questions and discussions on certain important topics and many more similar things. So let's just say if I open an issue, which is, let's just say 241, on the right-hand side, you can see there's an option to assign an individual. So once you do that, the assigned person gets a notification. And in theory, like they're responsible for resolving that particular issue. So they'll get a notification. It'll stay on their tracker for eternity until they resolve it. And yeah, so that's their responsibility. And it's helpful. And at the bottom, you can see there's like participants. You can see like three small icons, small circular icons, which basically show like who are the people who are actually engaging in this issue. It's helpful when you have to go through the list of participants without scrolling through the long list of comments. And trust me, like there are issues which has like thousands of comments. So it's very helpful at that time. This is what the pull request sections looks like. And this are basically changes submitted by the community for the specification. And now I would like to show an interesting feature for the reader docs. So once you connect your repository with the your reader docs account, it 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 automatically builds a documentation. You don't need to do anything. Whenever you submit a change, whenever you submit a single change, let's just say you add a full stop or add a comma, or you made like a big change, the documentation is getting built in the background continuously. So for example, I open this PR, which is like 262, and I scroll to the bottom, you can see there's like a small prompt which shows like the read the docs build is successful, and they're like details. So if I click on that detail, and this will redirect me to a page uh, which is a version of the actual documentation built by that specific pull request. So in simple words, basically this page contains the changes from that particular PR on top of the actual documentation, which is live on the website. So it's very useful, as you can see the changes, actual changes, what it will look like when you actually merge that PR into your main code base. So rather than just going through the files, you can just open this and see like, okay, these are the changes and these are changes which I have to include and which I have not to. So this is very helpful when you're working with a larger code base and you have big documentation, you have to see what changes need to go for. And here's now a screenshot of the actual pull request, which is merged. So there are like various important stuff in this screenshot. On the right-hand side, you can see the reviewers. And these are basically people who are actually going through this pull request and approving it. So the green tick shows that they have approved it, and the orange dot show that it's pending. And there's a small gear icon on the right-hand side where you can just click and assign your new reviewers to that as well. And just a bit below, you can see there's a this project, this PR is actually in this project board, which is one. So you can navigate through multiple project boards and assign this particular PR into different project boards. And at the bottom, you can see there's the option to revert as well. So let's just say you have to revert the changes in any case, and you can just click on that and it will revert the changes back to the original state. And please note that the revert can only be done by the users who have write permissions on the specific repositories. Okay, so now let's move on to the project board. So this is what one of the project boards from our whole community looks like. And this basically lets you organize your work in a well-defined manner. You can add issues and PRs, like you create issues and PRs and you can put them on the board by in drag and drop style. And you can also create new items by clicking on add the item, which is at the bottom of the every column. And you can also create new columns, add colors and all that stuff. So it helps. So I use this project board for creating roadmaps for the community, for myself to keep a track of my work, and also to organize like the bigger work for this Python, like the main code base and the software. So one of the most important feature of Git is like it lets you keep track of the changes via commits. And this is what our commit history looks like. And so let's just say you can see where did a particular commit came from. And on the screen, you can see the last commit came from PR number 261. And if I hover over it, it will show me more details. And if I click on it, it's going to just open the PR. And you can scroll through all the comments and discussions like how this particular change got into the main code base. Also, you have the ability to start to the first commit for us, which was January 15, 2019. And you can click on every commit and see like, why this change happened and why and what was the reason of having it and how it is involved. So, and you can also revert to any of the changes. Not that we're going to revert back to 2019, but yeah, just for the sake of argument. And if you're interested in reading more about the specification, you can go to this link. It's a bit technical, but yeah, these are like fairly easy terms. And over the years, we have developed 3 versions of the specifications, version 1, 2, and 3, and 3 being the latest one. So I think I have time, so I'm gonna just try to cover this as well. So I'll briefly talk about the Zep process. So basically dialing back to this slide, which says that Zarr is easy to use, and the professor looks a bit frightened. I mean, due to its ease of use and being language agnostic, and we have like a large and diverse community, which is a good thing, but it also poses a challenge for us because sometimes it's difficult to achieve a consensus when you're working on something because there are domains like geospatial, microscopy, bioimaging, and data engineering, data science. All of these communities use Zarr, and if they want to include some change into the specification, it gets difficult to get everyone on the same page. So over the years, we have been receiving a lot of pull requests and issues, and over the years we have been receiving a lot of pull requests and issues. And GitHub is great at what it does, like no question. But we realized we needed a structured way to solicit all the feedback and process it, which basically led me to the creation of the ZEP process. So basically ZEP stands for Zarr Enhancement Proposals, which is a design document providing information to the Zarr community and describing a modification and to the specification. So ZEP basically provides a specific proposed changes to the documentation, and it is basically submitted with a narrative rationale for that change. And we basically use ZEP as a primary mechanism for evolving the spec and collecting community feedback, input on major issues. ZEP is something which is like built on top of Git and GitHub and uses their functionality to full potential. So every ZEP is submitted via GitHub PR and it's displayed live on our page. So this is the website that you see on your screen. And we use like GitHub issues and comments to discuss the ZEP before finalizing it. You can read more on the website, and here's like a small flowchart which shows like the different state of ZEPs before it gets accepted. It goes from like draft to accepted, then final, or it goes from draft to provisional and that gets final, and it gets deferred as well. And lastly, there's like a link for blog post I wrote when I was working on the ZEP process. Feel free to give it a read, and basically I cover the sections like motivation and need for having a process. And I think that's it. Thank you.